Alright, in this episode, we're going to discuss what namespaces are, how we create namespaces, and how to actually use the namespaces. So without wasting any time, let's start coding. Alright, so when we talk about a namespace, we say it is a way for us to group related code together, right? So to give you an example of a namespace that we've actually been using, it is the std namespace, right? It is essentially a built-in namespace that groups all the classes, the functions, the variables, and features, right, into one thing, right? So that it is containerized and can be accessed in one place, right? So let us go about creating our own namespace so that we can see how namespaces work, right? So we can go ahead and create a namespace by prefixing it with the word namespace, right? And then let us create a product namespace, right? Right. So it's important that you prefix the name of your namespace is with a capital letter, right? So let's just go ahead and just store some information about products, right? A certain product can be 1, can be 2, right? Let's just go ahead and store information about a price. So we still follow the same procedure of declaring variables and assigning them, right? That's price 1. Let's just store another price. Right. So we have declared the variables in our namespace, right? So let us just go ahead and see what happens when we try and console log, or rather console output the price 1. Right. Before we can even compile it, right? What I like about the Visual Studio IDE, it tells you prior to even compiling certain errors that you can detect, right? So we can see that the price 1 is undefined. Why? Even though we defined it here, it says that it's undefined. The reason for this is the scope of the variable, right? When we discuss this, we'll discuss further what scopes are, right? But the scope of the variable, essentially we're saying that we are trying to tell the computer or the program to access the price, right? A variable called price 1, right? But it's looking everywhere, but it cannot find it, right? We need to tell it exactly where to find it, right? Which is under this namespace, right? Remember when we said that it is grouped, it is essentially in a container, right? So we need to tell the computer exactly where to find it, right? That is why we use the following notation, right? So once you do that, you can see that the little squiggly things that were under here, right, they disappear. Why? Because it can already detect that there exists a variable within the product that is price 1, right? So that's essentially how we go about creating namespaces and using namespaces, right? Go ahead and console log this, right? Rather console output this so we can see it's working the way we want it to work, right? All right, so our code has compiled successfully. We can go ahead and run the program, right? And we can see that we do get exactly what we wanted, right? So let us just show a situation or a scenario in which we did not prefix it with the word products, and let us see what would happen, right? Just go ahead and clear this. It's actually incorrect. I didn't compile it. I need to recompile after every change, by the way. So what happens is it does not compile, right? Because this does not exist, essentially, right? This does not exist because it is protected essentially by the product namespace. So we need to tell the computer where exactly to find this variable that we want to print out, right? So let us just show how we can, an easier way to also access these variables, right? So as you may have seen in maybe other tutorials, right, we can always say using namespace products, right? When we do this, then we wouldn't need to prefix it with the word products, right? Because essentially we're telling we're telling the computer that we're now using this namespace, right? So give us access to everything that's in here, right? So that is why whenever we print price one, it knows exactly where to find price one, right? So let's just compile and show that it works the way we want it to work, right? So we can see that it compiled without giving us any errors, and it actually printed 10.99, right? So cases in which whereby you may see people having to actually prefix it with the word maybe products, it's when we want to avoid naming conflicts, right? Maybe there's another price one, maybe we don't just, maybe there's another price one, right? So now we don't know, the computer doesn't know which price one to use, right? So we want to be specific and say that use the price one in the product's namespace, right? So that's how we can create our own namespaces, and that's how we can use the namespace, right? So we have reached the end of this episode. If you enjoyed this episode, you can go ahead and leave a like. If you want to stay tuned to more releases, you can go ahead and subscribe. Otherwise, cheers.